Morning, everybody. Michelle is here. Michelle is here on this Tuesday. Tuesday, June the 9th, 2026. Tuesday. And I want to talk about something, that comes up quite often. This comes up quite often. Um, Whereas people are attempting to bring some air in here. Gets a little stuck in here, especially during the day. I want to talk about this subject that comes up quite often, whereas people are talking about loneliness. And I've done a couple of videos on that subject. Hopefully my face is clean and nothing's sticking out, which usually happens when I start recording. But anyway, ignore that and just listen to my voice, because that's the most important thing. Just listen to the resonance of my voice and see if my sounds and tones relate to you. And if they do, that's great. If they don't, that's great as well. So let's talk about this thing called loneliness that comes up quite often. And if you don't understand what's going on, you're going to make it into something that is actually not. You're going to create it as a problem when it's actually not a problem at all. It's a consequence of what we are all going through. And so many people attempt to, try to figure things out, which is great. But a lot of people are using the wrong type of information, I guess, or using the wrong type of behaviors and actions to resolve this so-called loneliness that a lot of people are facing. And I want to do my best to share with you what my take on that is. What I'm picking up and what I'm sensing and receiving based on how I develop myself, and what will happen to you when you start developing yourself. So, loneliness. What does loneliness mean to you? I can, let me see what the dictionary says, because I like to refer to that, because sometimes we forget what's in these dictionaries and we just kind of regurgitate something that is not even relating to what is actually going on. So let's see if I can do this very simply before I go, because I'm going to do my strength training today. And okay, let's see what it says here, on our dictionaries. Loneliness is an unpleasant emotional response to a perceived or actual isolation. Okay, that is what it says. If you pull it up, it says loneliness has been described as social pain, psychological mechanisms that motivate individuals to seek social connections. This condition is frequently associated to a perceived lack of emotional connection and intimacy. Okay? Loneliness overlaps and yet is distinct from solitude. Yeah. So look it up for yourself and see if you can, come up with what you sense as loneliness and what that means to you. Because it's going to mean a lot. I think it's going to be differently for others. I think that's close to what it means, or that's what we're giving meaning to. Whether it means that or not is something completely different. And I hope to kind of dispel some of the myths around loneliness and why it is happening at these times in our lives. Okay. Hopefully the light is good. I'm sitting inside my vehicle right now. So let me just start here. Loneliness. Okay. It's like it says in there, there's a perception of isolation with loneliness. Okay. And in the videos I put out some time ago, I said to you, loneliness is going to occur with some people, whether someone's around them or not. They're not necessarily isolated. Somebody is always there. Somebody is always around. And in our current situation, since we have extreme bottleneck, that is more true than ever. There is constant movement of people, equipment, vehicles, sounds and tones all over this planet, whereas all of us are being affected by it. All of us. The creatures, the animals, especially the animals with the sounds and tones and the noise and the pollution and everything that's going on around us. Okay, I told you there's an extreme bottleneck. So people everywhere you go, you'll see somebody. There's no actual isolation, even if you go out in the woods. Okay, even if you're out in the woods and you believe you're by yourself, in most cases I can guarantee you're not. Somebody is always there. Now, here's what's really going on, in my opinion, and I just want you to see if you can kind of flow with me on what I'm about to say right now, and see if it resonates with you that way, and that way you'll stop saying that you're lonely, and you'll say that you have a need for something. You have a need. And what is need? What is a need? Let's see if I can see this without my glasses. So to me, it has something to do with intimacy. Okay, and I said this before. A lot of people are needing or I don't want to say desiring, but they are looking for intimacy. Okay, need. It's a noun here. They call something required or wanted. Okay. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Sometimes these dictionaries go a bit too far with not really explaining. Okay, you want something. You need something. And sadly, because of our situation, which is hopefully is going to make sense in a minute, you're gonna keep longing for that, and you're gonna keep searching for that, and you're gonna keep your attention on that until you understand what's really going on around us. Okay. As I've been developing myself, okay, I recognized at a very young age, that we all want to fit in somewhere. We all want to belong. We all want to be liked, regardless of what we say. We just want to feel connected to people. We want to feel connected to someone. So that's why we place a lot of effort and time and energy on, wanting to be in a relationship with somebody. That intimacy part that's lacking. And I'll explain to you why it's lacking. But that's, there's this desire, to and it's a fantasy too. And it's a delusion as well. That we know Prince, we're looking for the princess, the prince of our lives, somebody that's going to come in and sweep us off our feet. I used to hear that shit all the time when I was growing up, because I felt a disconnect. And like I said, I'll explain that as best I can, as I might have to do a couple of videos on it. But when I was a young girl growing up in our culture, it was filled with people. Trust me on that. It was filled with activity. It was filled with people. In our home, we were in a 3-bedroom, and we started out with 1 bath. 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and we had my mom and dad there, and anywhere from, and I have 6 siblings, but there was always relatives there, which would have made it either a house of, including my mom and dad, maybe 12 people, right? Or maybe I'm 6, 7, 8. Well, 10 to 12 people possibly were in this 3-bedroom, one bath. Okay, now that's definitely not isolation at all, is it? Is that isolation? No, that's not isolation. So, but when I was growing up in that environment, in the culture I grew up in, there was always someone there, always someone around. You were never literally alone. Okay, you were not literally in isolation. Okay, but it's more that it's a bit more deeper than that. Let's just be honest. We like to be around what we like to be around. Okay, we like to hang out where we like to hang out. We like a certain type of comfort in the connections that we develop. And a lot of us are not getting that. And sadly, if you don't understand what is really going on and what's causing that, you're gonna bury yourself deeper into your own self-created, man-made isolation that's coming from within. Okay, you're isolated within, and it has nothing to do with that what's happening external at all. It has nothing to do with that. We all grew up with these perceptions, again, that we're supposed to, as soon as we get out of the womb of our mom, our biological mother, we're supposed to immediately find a man or find a woman, get married, have children, and rinse and repeat that same type of family structure. Okay, and at some point, I would say thousands of years ago, or maybe even more, some people recognize, okay, that's not living, that's performing, that's keeping up traditions and keeping up, quote unquote customs, cultures, blah blah blah. In other words, that's not it. That's not why we are here. That's not why we are conceived. Okay, and I think a lot of people are figuring this out. And sadly, I don't want people to be so harmful towards themselves and feel like they missed out. They missed opportunities, because a lot of people are figuring this out at ages, maybe in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they feel so alone. Even though they got all these people around them, their husband may still be there, their children, their grandchildren, animals. Even animals are not emotionally supporting people as they thought they would. Giving people that type of connection. Okay, that connection was severed when we became massively overpopulated. Stay with me on this. I know a lot of people are like, okay, that, a lot of people want to dismiss that, especially the hierarchical structure. And the hierarchical structure I'm talking about, that religious tentacles, they want you to be indoctrinate yourself to believe that you are alone and that you need to wait for somebody to come and save you. A lot of us have that embedded in our consciousness, in our psyche, in our unconscious, in our subconscious, whereas somebody is coming to save you. Somebody is supposed to come and save you, whether it's your prince, your princess, having children, having animals. That's why some people have one animal, then they'll have 3 animals, and before you know it, they have 10 animals of various types, not necessarily dogs. It'll be cats, it'll be birds, it'll be this or that or the other. Because people are attempting to feel something, feel a whole, HOLE, that they are alone or that they're lonely, and nothing will fill it. It's like a black hole, actually. literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. You're feeling into something that's churning into something else. You throw something in, and then it churns out into something completely different than what you may have imagined it would be. So, as I was growing up, again, I wanted a certain type of connection with people, and I wasn't getting it. So I had to dig deep and figure out, okay, what is it? I used to go to the clubs, I used to go to the bars, I used to go to events, attempting to seek that connection, because, everybody kept saying to me, which, a lot of people were lying, and that's unfortunate. But somebody's going to sweep you off your feet, girl. They're going to come in and they're going to take you, that's a bunch of garbage, and that's a fantasy, and that's a Hollywood fallacy, because that's what Hollywood, that illusion of Hollywood presents to us, that somebody's going to come and kiss you, and then, these fairy tales, and these things were harmful, actually, to our consciousness and psyche development. With these beliefs, because that's all they are. They're beliefs that somebody is coming to save us. Somebody's going to come and save me. Fill up my loneliness perception. There's a loneliness perception. They're going to, come in, and then my life is going to be perfect. I can live happily ever after. That's what we say in these marriage vows, which ought to change. I'm not going to repeat some of the vows that were passed down through generations of hundreds and thousands of years. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that to somebody that I plan to marry or plan to, to connect to, whatever the term. It doesn't even matter. Marriage ought to be obsolete by now. We ought to make those terms obsolete, because they're reared in fallacies, fantasies, hallucinations, and delusion. Okay. No one's coming to save us. I think a lot of people are figuring that out at an advanced age, and that is not the time you actually need. You want to figure stuff out at an advanced age, and unfortunately, some of us will, and that's just. But you can snap out of that in a day or two, when you understand that. Okay, if no one's coming to save me, you have to kind of talk yourself through what am I indoctrinating myself to believe. Okay, I have food, I have I have the basic necessities. Okay, even if you're homeless and on the street, unhoused and on the street, a lot of the homeless and unhoused, listen to me carefully, are participating in a unconscious criminal network in most cases, and some are in a conscious criminal network. They know exactly what they're doing. There's a few, I would say, okay, as I said, 75%, I believe, that's a belief, take it or leave it, are conscious in a criminal network. 75% of the homeless or the unhoused. Okay, the remaining 25%, the math adds up, are in a unconscious hallucination about loneliness and being alone and being isolated. Okay, that's anything but true. If you snap out of it and get a grip and look around you, okay, we are suffocating ourselves, actually, literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. Via how we're breathing, via what we're breathing. So you're gonna have to go through steps of as some people say, dismantling, and you do dismantling. Okay, what are you rinsing and repeating in your brain? What are you saying to yourself over and over and over and over again? What we're missing is connection. What we're missing is intimacy. Okay, and I can guarantee you, the majority of the marriages out there now do not have this level of intimacy that I'm speaking of. Okay, it's a connection, and it's energetic, it's powerful. And I'm gonna come back and say more about that in part 2, because I don't want these to go too long. But that is where we are with this loneliness fallacy. And I hope to dismantle it for you and have you genuinely understanding what you're going through right now. So stay tuned for part 2.